This is an excerpt from Edward Lorn's novel, Everything is Horrible Now. Kirby Johnson fell in love for the first time on a Sunday. He fell in love in church, of all places, and with a man of God, no less. He fell in love. He fell in love. Fell love. Were there two scarier words in the entirety of the English language? Maybe, but Kirby Johnson couldn't imagine what they might be. 16 years old was an advanced age for a first love, but when your sexual attractions were better left hidden from the public eye, love at first sight was a dangerous concept. Mooning over the one you adore could cause all kinds of drama, and in some circles even bring you physical harm. This wasn't Hollywood or New York City. Kirby had been born and raised in Bays End, Ohio, and Bays End, Ohio was not in possession of anything that could be even remotely mistaken for a gay community. Were there homosexuals in the end? Certainly, but their identities were as much a mystery to Kirby Johnson as his own sexuality was. Before he fell in love, Kirby had never had even a passing sexual attraction. Maybe he was a late bloomer in that regard, but no man before that day in church had given him, well, if we are being vulgar, no man before Father George had given him a rise. Kirby had lain his Bible over his crotch to cover up the issue, and his mother, Donna Johnson, had gone unaware. To think that Father George would ever return Kirby's feelings was a thought that never crossed his mind. Kirby had heard the boys in school call each other queers and faggots and cocksuckers and turd attendants. The latter made even Kirby giggle, and he knew that none of those things were acceptable. He knew that he'd somehow taken on the role of villain by simply existing. All of his erections before that day in church had been spontaneous incidents. Sitting in class doing math work, swinging on a swing set, boiling eggs for egg salad sandwiches. These had been the things that had previously given him erections, and to think he found egg salad sandwiches attractive was beyond silly. Although we will not discuss whether or not he tried to make love to a bowl of the creamy yellow goodness. Such things are not topics for casual acquaintances to discuss. On that day in the summer before Father George's death, Kirby Johnson sat with his erection secure behind the binding of his personal Bible. Written on the inside of this Bible, on the very first page, was a list of names, starting with his great-great-grandfather and working down to his father and then his own name. In his mother's Bible, the same was true, but the names were women's names instead of men's names. From great-great-grandmother down to Donna herself. Their Bibles chronicled the Johnson family from the point they left Germany and settled in New Hampshire, by way of New York immigration. In Germany the family name had not been Johnson, but it had been decided on the boat to America that the family would change their name. Miser it had been, and never reference their old surname again. So the family's original name died, and the Johnson family was born. On the opposite side of page 1, where the names had been written, there was a family tree that explained who had married whom and from whom each new addition had come. While all of this was fascinating to Kirby, he found it hilarious beyond measure that his ancestors were, in a way, holding back his erection from view. Father George spoke about the evils of the flesh, and that might have been what did it, the straw that raised the camel's erection, so to speak. Hearing such a handsome man talk about the sins of the flesh, of wanton desire and cardinal pleasures, drove Kirby Johnson mad with teenage lust. He imagined stripping the clothes from Father George and bending him over the pulpit and having his way with the pastor, utilizing every orifice, sliding in and out of him, massaging his Kirby. His mother hissed. You're drooling. Clean yourself up. Sorry, Mama. Kirby wiped a line of saliva from the corner of his mouth and chin. Donna Johnson kept an eye on him for the rest of the service. Kirby tried not to slip off into dreamland again, a feat that took considerable effort to pull off. When he got home that afternoon, he excused himself and took a shower. His second shower of the day, seeing as how he'd showered before church. He masturbated furiously under a stream of near scalding water and ejaculated like a shotgun blast against the shower curtain. He hunched forward and rested his forearm against the cool tile, his forehead stuffed into the crook of his elbow. Hot water dribbled down his back as he attempted to relax his breathing. After a few moments, considering what he had done and who he'd imagined while doing it, he cleaned himself thoroughly, the shower curtain too, and cut off the shower. He was in the middle of toweling off when he heard his mother's voice from the hallway. I'd like to speak to you when you're done in there. She sounded as if she were right outside the bathroom door, right there on the other side of the wood, as if she'd been waiting, listening. Dread built inside Kirby, and he spent the rest of his time drying off, sick with worry. For a time he stared at his reflection in the foggy mirror before sliding a hand across the cool glass and wiping away the steam. He looked like a different person. What had once been cloudy was now clear. For the first time in his life, Kirby Johnson knew who he was, and he didn't hate himself for it. He'd always known he was different, that his tastes were unlike anyone else's, at least those who he knew. But he'd also been trained by society that being different was not good. If you were different in any way, you were expected to conform. But conformity was not Kirby's style. And he decided if no one else would respect him, he would respect himself. He dressed and joined his mother in the living room. She was on the couch, sipping tea. Kirby sat on the opposite end. Both mother and son twisted so that they were facing one another. Donna put her cup down on its matching saucer and smiled. Did you have a nice shower? Yes'm. That's good. Did you enjoy yourself at church? Yes'm. Fine, just fine. She swallowed, and Kirby thought the action looked unbearably painful. Is there anything you'd like to tell me? No, ma'am. Are you sure? Yes'm. Because, no, ma'am, there's nothing I'd like to tell you. May I be excused? Not just yet. Donna Johnson picked up her cup and slurped tea into her mouth. She winced, blew steam, and took another sip. This second sip seemed to go down easier. Kirby's pulse pounded in his head. Had she somehow seen him in the shower? Had she read his thoughts in church? Did she know? For the love of God, how much did she know? I've always been able to sense things, Kirby. Do you understand what I mean? Oh God, oh no, please God, no. Yes'm, he said. I think you've been born with some of the same gift. A knowing, a sense of certainty of thought. Do you understand? No matter how much Kirby forced himself to speak, there was no doing it. He couldn't so much as part his lips. There was no forming words, not now, seemingly not ever again, so he simply nodded. It was everything he could do just to get his neck to move. Maybe it skipped you, but I somehow doubt that. It's not anything magical, nothing like mind reading. Don't think that. It's more like what I said, a certainty. Do you know what I'm certain of, Kirby? Yes'm. It seemed he wasn't mute after all. You do? Yes'm. Good. Then you're not going to lie to me and tell me you're not having unclean thoughts, are you? No, ma'am. Good. She lay a hand on his knee. She was shaking as badly as he was. Somehow, that knowledge that she herself was terrified soothed Kirby's nerves. How someone could be so frightened and so frightening at the same time, Kirby hadn't a clue. You do realize that what you've been thinking is wrong, Kirby. It's not natural. Yes'm. I think we should go to see Father George. Why? Kirby squeaked in a tiny voice. Because he's a man who's close to God, Kirby. He'll know what to do. He'll know what to say and how to pray this. He'll know how to pray it all away. Do you have faith in God, Kirby? Yes'm. Then I need you to have faith that God is pointing me in the right direction. I believe He's given me this gift of certainty for this very purpose, so that I might guide my child away from his sinful thoughts and ways, so that I can direct you to a more righteous path. Yes'm, that's all I want. I love you and care about you, and I only wish to spend eternity with you in heaven. You understand that, don't you? Yes'm. Then you may now be excused. Kirby shot to his feet and walked, stiff-legged, toward the hallway. When he was halfway to his room, his mother's voice called from the living room. "And Kirby?" Kirby stopped mid-step and said, "Yes'm?" "Please don't do what you did in the shower. Never again. You're not the only one who lives in this house. Thank you for respecting my wishes." Kirby closed himself in his room, where he lay down on his bed and quietly cried for a solid hour while listening to his mother in the bathroom, singing hymns and scrubbing the shower spotless.